Okay, we are officially live. Good morning, happy Wednesday, everybody out there. And I usually say Facebook land, but it's YouTube and all the other good things. So it is Go Live Wednesday time. I am Christina Springstead, founder and owner of Springstead Solutions. Today I'm going to be here talking to you about all things banking, business banking, profit first banking, and I have my dear friend Deanna Blaise, who is Vice President, Member Business Services at Valley Strong Credit Union. So I am happy to bring her on today. She's going to help us understand bank accounts a little bit more. I get lots of questions about all the good things as we were discussing. What do people need to know about bank accounts? So Deanna, if you could just give people a little blurb, who are you? What's your background in the banking industry? All the good things.
Thank you for having me, Christina.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be on with you today and talk a little bit about a few items. Hopefully we can help a few people. As Christina said, I do work at Valley Strong Credit Union. I oversee our business banking area and have been involved in some sort of fashion in business banking for probably nearly 20 years or so. That if I take myself back to some other institutions that I've worked for, I've come a long way and realized, wow, okay, I'm getting to be on the elder side of things. And as I look into Facebook Lynn and see myself there, but really excited to be here to try to give back and maybe to shed a few things that maybe were mysterious to people or don't understand why we recommend things the way we do. But some of it comes really from the accounting side of things. So I'll preface this. I am not a CPA. I encourage all of you folks out there to seek out your CPA or a certified individual that can help you talk through some of these things with you about why a banker may be asking on certain things on bank accounts. But Christine, I'll turn it back over to you with what questions you may have.
Perfect. So as I mentioned, and Deanna, I told you, I'm Profit First certified. So that's part of the process that we have. And in that, we recommend bank accounts. So very similar to the envelope system that people have in place for their personal finances. Profit First, it says, hey, we need, we're going to do that same thing through bank accounts in Profit First. So I just wrapped up a 3-part series of FAQs that the system that we as consultants or the organization gets about bank accounts. One of the big ones is why all the bank accounts, which I'll speak to that in a minute. And then what types of bank accounts should they be checking or savings? And on top of that, my clients have said, I use personal versus business. And I think there's a big misunderstanding of the two, why you need them, when you need them, and that there's actually compliance issues if you're not using the right one at some certain point. So I want to discuss that and let people understand. Again, for Profit First, we find, because we do operate off of multiple bank accounts, that credit unions are usually the most friendly in that aspect because of fees. And so I thought it was perfect to have you on. Sure. I am a 30-year Wells Fargo customer. I've discussed that with you. And it's just something I think, oh my gosh, changing your bank account after 30 years seems devastating. It's not, but it's a mental mind block, right? And so when it came to setting up this system of having our core accounts are 5 and 2 at another bank, and we were supposed to have accounts at another bank, so having a friendly banker that I knew, which was perfect, at a credit union just made sense, right? So I opened those up, and I realized that all of these accounts that I'd opened up through Wells Fargo, they all required this astronomical minimum balance of $500 each account. So I'm immediately losing access to that money if I don't want to pay bank fees, which I don't want to pay bank fees, right?
Sure.
What I thought was great is when I linked to you and your team at Valley Strong, it was really my first go around with credit unions. Initially, it was like, it was just teachers because you came from perm schools.
Sure.
So it went, it was just teachers, or it was just this, or you had to be a special type of individual to get in. And then what I knew in my brain was like, you go to credit unions because you get special deals on Disneyland tickets, or you know what I mean? Like those were the things that I knew.
Sure.
And I in my brain, it was like a bank is a bank is a bank. You store your money, you access your money. And so what I realized is when I opened up my accounts with you, I was like, some of them, depending on what I'm doing, and as I talked with your team, you only need a $5 minimum balance, which is great for us because we're transferring money in and out. And at times we want to exhaust the account. So one of my first questions for you was, most of the people I'm working with are small business owners, are sole props, they're maybe side gigs, soon to be full-time gig, they're just launching. Talk to us about personal accounts versus business accounts.
Okay.
And when do you need a business account and what justifies you needing it?
Okay, so first off, most people, when they are getting started, they will start out with a sole proprietorship. It's
Mhm.
really easy to get started. But one of the things I do encourage individuals to understand, even if it's a hobby and you're just starting out with your own money, you're going to feel like you want to just start with your own personal bank account. But I highly recommend, if you're going to get some into something and you're passionate about it, start it off as if it's your end goal in sight. And if you talk to a financial advisor, they're going to always tell you right away, keep those funds separate. It
Mhm.
makes your accounting for that new venture so much easier when it comes time to sit down and filing your tax returns and things, et cetera. Because when you start commingling things that are personal through business, the accounting of it for your business becomes lopsided.
Mhm.
And one of the things I really like to share with people is that your bank account can become your accounting record as well when you're getting started. That's what your bank statement is used for. You're seeing what's coming in, the expenses going out. It's almost in the beginning stages, what we call a profit and loss statement, kind of definitely comes from your bank account statement. So if you keep those things separate and clean, you really can keep the financial story of your new venture really clean as well. When you start commingling deposits that belong to personal to pay your personal expenses, it gets diluted in the story of how well is your new venture doing. So that's one of the most important key things that I do share with a lot of sole proprietors that we have here at our institution. We do like to provide a lot of education around that because in the beginning, a lot of business owners or people that are starting out something new that may not completely be aware of what's the right path to take, that's one of the first steps is start fresh, start with an appropriate basic business banking account. You can have a basic savings share account, and it starts your accounting records off super smooth. And I think it'll help prevent knowing how to separate your funds, what needs to go to your personal budget, and then what needs to stay in the business account to support what your new venture is going to look like. Now, it doesn't mean you can't move money back and forth between the two. If your new venture is doing great and you're at the point where you're ready to pay yourself, you can then perform, a transfer from one account to the other or write a check, from one account, from your business account to the other. That way you're just showing the appropriate paper trail, if you will, for your accountant or your bookkeeper or whomever you're asking to assist you with that. But I would really have to say that's one critical thing. The second thing does come around compliance.
Mhm.
Consumer accounts have many more protections out there with the what's I would like to reference more care around the consumer account, and that you have certain rights as a consumer on your accounts that are very different than on the business side. So, compliance related, it's two separate avenues of what you can and cannot do within an account. So, those to me are the two key things, and making sure that whatever institution you're with, you understand what can or cannot happen on each of those account types and get comfortable with it before you make that decision. And most of your bankers out there should be able to walk you through each benefit of each type of an account. So I don't know if you have any follow-up questions to that, Christina.
Yeah, so I think one of them would be, like I mentioned, I was a Wells Fargo customer. I went and opened up all these accounts, right? And so there is, I think what's kind of typical is you go to these, massive national banks, and it's a $500 minimal deposit to get no fees whatsoever for a business account. Now, what does that look like? We're going to talk about Valley Strong because you work there,
Sure.
but for credit unions a little bit, what does that look like for you? Like, what is your minimum deposit when you're talking about a business account? How much do you have to open it, and how much do you have to keep in it to not get a fee?
Correct. We talked about the share account, which is like
Mm-hmm.
a share savings account. The minimum to get that open, we do require just a $5 fee in or $5 deposit in there.
Mm-hmm.
That starts the membership here at the credit union. And that is the same amount, whether it be for the personal side or the business side. So it's your first entry level account. It establishes a membership with the organization. And the one thing we do require though is you don't have to be a personal member to become a business member, but they are two separate in itself. So we get that question a lot. Again, going back to the mystery around do I have to be a school employee related to somebody? That still lingers for us here at the credit union. That's not the case. Our area is just, live, work, and worship in the area, in this community. So pretty much anybody that lives here in our community that we serve can become a member. So it's pretty easy to make that happen.
Right. And I feel like that's kind of the case and where a lot of credit unions have gone is there's been a lot more of that, like we're going to serve our community. And so people don't have to, there's not that stigma of, oh, you've got to be a certain thing before you can get an account there. And I do love just $5, you can get a savings account, right? Like
Yeah.
without getting a feed for it. So if it stays $5 while you're trying to figure out how do you save money, you're not
Right.
losing your $5, right? Like it's not going
Right.
down to full and then
Right.
fees, which I think is amazing because of the larger banks, you have to have this massive amount of money. And I think for most of us, despite our financial situation, $5 staying in an account is okay. That's not going to make or break us, right? 500 on the other hand, we might need to dip into that and get a little bit closer. And then all of a sudden you got your bank charges and your fees. And so that's what I have loved very much about the difference in the credit union versus Wells Fargo. And again, I have been a client for 30 years and there's like no negotiation on those fees. So it's kind of like the 30 years of loyalty service is like, poo, that kind of stinks.
Yeah, one of the things that is, a little bit different, I would say, like kind of on the culture side of it, credit unions really were established to help the underserved in communities. We are nonprofit organizations, and our focus here at Valley Strong is people over profits. Not that we want to make sure that we run a profitable organization, of course, because we are stewards of our membership's funds, and we take that responsibility. We don't take that lightly. So we are focused on doing the right things for people, but giving back in a way that as the credit union is successful in the way that we perform business, we are wanting to turn that back around with lower lending rates, better savings rates, things of that nature that go back in giving back to our membership. So, we're not publicly traded entity or things of that nature. So it's just a different philosophy when you're comparing a bank to a credit union. So those are, one of the advantages, I would say, in the changes the culture of the organization that you might want to do business with.
Right. I would agree with that completely. Like I said, the beauty that I have a friend and a banker I can reach out to directly and I don't have to walk into a branch and hope that the next person in line might maybe be able to help me. But that's what I've noticed in yours is I got people I can call and it's more relationship, which I'm a relationship person. So I love that about it. So when we get back to the different types of bank accounts, just for education purposes, is there a point in time, we talked about business versus personal, is there a point in time where, and we talked about compliance, where you absolutely, depending on your entity status, have to have a business account, like a personal account is not, because, we read back and forth on that, but I believe there's a certain point where you can't be operating your business in a personal account.
Actually, for us, when a person establishes that they're going to be having a business account, we require that they have a business account. Running a business, we require a business account. In the past, some institutions, depending upon when you start out as a sole proprietor, and you have to look at this from bank to bank or credit union to credit union, each institution may have their own requirements, but we are focused on, again, the compliance and each rights that each business entity or consumer has. So we want to make sure right from the get-go, if you're running a business, in the past, some people had said, oh, I would be able to have a DBA, under my personal bank account, or I filed a fictitious business name statement because my business name is different than using my surname in my business name. I was able to keep that on my personal account. That's changing here at our organization. So now that we have business bank accounts available to those individuals, we have gradually moved those individuals over into the appropriate account type. And the reason for that too, not only compliance, but again, it's focusing them on how to be a coach for them and helping them achieve the goals that they have set out with, whether it be a brand new venture or whatnot. So I continue to go back to set it up right from the get-go. And so that as your company grows, you don't have to go back and do that. And again, some institutions won't allow it for you to commingle funds from the get-go. The only one that is available to that really is a sole proprietor, because you're one and the same. You're more than likely filing using your personal tax ID. You may not have any employees yet, which would require an EIN number, through the IRS.
Mhm.
So as you change your business entity structure, let's say you become a corporation or an S corp, or you seek legal advice for that, of what entity type to be, it does get I would say a little more, I don't want to use the word complicated, but a few more guidelines are required, the bigger you get. And that goes back to really protecting yourself as an individual and your personal assets too. So I always highly encourage, sit down before you're going to go into business, understand what the different business entity structures are. And I always encourage seeking the advice of a legal advisor, also seeking the advice of the small business administration, our local, as what we call SBDC, the Small Business Development Center out at CSUB, is a wonderful resource. It's free to business owners. And I know that's a long-winded answer to your question, Christina, but it really is the most important part, is your beginning stage, is figuring out how you're going to do business and how you're going to use an account for your income and expenses. So
Right.
that's really the very beginning stage.
And I love that. Like I said, we suggest multiple different bank accounts, which kind of helps with the P&L portion of that. And so another thing was ease of accessing the money. One thing I realized is I have credit union here, and then I have another credit union account through a loan that I have, that I just happened to get the account because it was part of a loan. And one thing I realized you guys brought on board, and they also is, it was harder to transfer money back and forth. It was late, but now you guys seem to be like, the technology is upgrading where accessing your money is a lot easier. So transfers within accounts pretty instantaneously. And now you guys are pretty much being able to access transferring to other accounts as well in a much more seamless process, right?
Yes. Yes, we are. We recently have what's called an external transfer, where you can transfer outside in between other financial institutions. It is like a 1-day delay, but it's, for most people, it's not that big of a deal that you see it show up there the next day and funds coming in back and forth. We understand that most business owners or consumers sometimes today just unfortunately don't bank at just one institution. A lot of people spread their funds out for different reasons, or for insurance purposes to insure their funds. But yes, through business online banking today and the technology that's available, I really encourage people to ask those questions of their institution of how their online banking systems work and what they can or cannot do with that, because to me, it brings the bank right at your fingertips, and that information is there for you when you need it, 24 hours a day. And just understanding, how easy it is to access your funds, whether it be you're at home or you're traveling or whatnot. Some people, I think, are still afraid of online banking because fraud is so rampant. But I do encourage, I've always told my members, or if they're considered customers at other institutions, that is actually one of the safest ways, is to monitor your account right away, because you will know right away if something's wrong. And with waiting for a bank statement to come, or if you're afraid your information is out there in cyberland, if somebody's going to find a way to commit fraud, they'll figure it out another way, even if it's stealing mail out of your mailbox. So I highly encourage people to get comfortable with how you can use online banking, how easy it is to use, and really use it for monitoring of your accounts on a daily basis.
And I would agree. So I will say, I get that. My mother's a prime example. She just doesn't want to go online. And I always tell her, I said, whether you create the account or not, your stuff is online. It's out there. Someone's got your information online. And so I have that conversation with her regularly too, is, banks in these places, although yes, there's always that fear. Like you said, how many mailbox thefts are we having right now happening, right? You think just all the craziness, but, the insurability of it, the ease of it, the mobile depositing. Oh, what a lifesaver. All of the great things and the time saving that you're having. So I love that. And you mentioned, which is one of my questions, that I used to be so afraid about going to a local or regional bank, was when I'm traveling,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to get to my money. I got to pay this ATM fee. I got to do all this stuff. So talk to me about when someone travels and they're worried about, Valley Strong is within the Valley area, and now I'm
Sure.
going to the Midwest. It's, that was the thing that for me, I was like, oh, I'm going to get hit up with all these ATM fees if I need my money.
Well, the one thing too, I would say that unique thing that we do have set up, we have card alerts as well, where you also can manage when you're going to be out of the area, for one, to make sure your card is going to work. And most institutions nowadays with their card systems have what's called fraud protection or fraud alerting. That will automatically, if we think that your regular normal routine activity is out of what you normally do every day, we make sure that we're checking that. Oh, was your card stolen, or is this pattern of the purchase out of the area? We have the ability through our card alerts that you would set up even through your mobile to notify you right away, is this you? Or you can also authorize those transactions so that your card isn't blocked, and you can set that up to where you can get a phone call or a text alert so that you can use your card easily, outside of the area. Now, we do also have an ATM network. So when you use one of the ATM networks outside of the organization, then you won't pay that foreign ATM fee.
Okay. And so
So,
that's
and
important
there's,
to know is
yeah,
which network you're in, right? So
yes,
kind of like
yeah,
health insurance. Are you in or out of network?
yeah.
It's
When
a
you look,
different story.
yeah. So that should be one of the questions people should ask right at the front of opening an account is with the debit card. What does your ATM network look like? How can I access it out of the area? Am I going to be charged a fee? What network do you partner with? And that's one way to avoid the foreign ATM fees.
Okay. And so a question like that, right? If you're looking around the banks, I was on the Valley Strong website, just kind of checking out. Is that typically information that you guys have posted in case someone wants to check it out? I know we posted here in the comments the business schedule fees just so people could have an idea of what that would look like to open up an account at Valley Strong. What does that look like? And then you also have a blog on there, right? So you're talking about doing education for finance.
Right.
And so
Mm-hmm.
those frequently asked questions, do you have something like that where they can guide through, or if they're interested in talking to someone, so it's pandemic, right? Maybe some people aren't ready to go into the bank. Like how do you suggest that someone goes about in these kind of,
Sure.
weird times that we're at?
Through our website, we do have the capability to do live chat. You can contact our 800 number out there that goes right to our contact center. If there's, especially for people that right now, because of the pandemic, don't want to go into a location, we do have those features available and readily available through our resources on our website. You can go that route. And obviously, we have posted all of our locations. You can call into any of our location. We'll walk you through certain things over the phone. We will also, even most of our locations that have drive-through, we're happy to answer those questions even through a drive-through, or make an appointment if you're, really concerned about coming in, or depends upon your questions, of course, and what your needs are. But we'll have multiple ways that we'd be willing to work around the pandemic to get your questions answered at whatever method you prefer.
Okay.
So we're trying to think outside of the box, and our chat has become more recently available and used quite a bit. So where
Yes.
it wasn't used that often, it's electronic transactions have changed tremendously since the pandemic. So drive
Yes.
through and chat have been widely used.
And I think that's amazing. I will say there was obviously, as you know, because I reached out to you first, there was a couple of new account needs that I had during the pandemic, and which was great because you could qualify who I was. You knew who I was, an existing customer. It was very easy for me to open up accounts without really having to leave my office. And that was amazing that there's this banker relationship that I've always heard of, but I always thought it was
Mm-hmm.
very elusive. Right? Like, what does that mean? Like, you have someone's business card, but can never get a hold of them. They're in the bank
Right.
somewhere, but they're never available. And I've noticed that the difference between, a local regional bank in your community is the ability to have true access and relationship with a banker, which is, yes, I got branches here for,
Mm-hmm.
my other national bank, but it's just not the same, nor has it ever been. And I feel like
Sure.
they move a lot there too. So there's a lot of moving of people. And so I will just say I'm very much appreciative. I did not realize how much I was appreciative until Profit First, and I needed all of these accounts, and then therefore the wonders of Valley Strong
Yeah.
and credit unions.
I really think it's a great method that you've discovered, Christina. I'm sure as most people out there become aware of Profit First, I mean, it's, yes, you're looking at different bank accounts, but again, it goes back to the comment I made previously. Set yourself up for success right from the get-go. Teach yourself really healthy habits. And that's one of the things I really loved about this is that the opening up of the separate bank accounts, it's for a purpose. And a lot of business owners I work with now already do that to a certain degree, but not to the level that your method teaches them. So some business owners use an operating account where they pay everything out of, or will have a separate payroll account, so they keep that separate. And some people even use, like if they're using merchant services for credit card processing, they'll have a separate account for that. But oftentimes they don't think about having the account set aside for savings for their estimated tax payments or sales tax or whatever it might be related to planning ahead. So not having that bomb that drops and go, oh, wow, how I've been so successful this year. How am I going to pay this? So hearing your ideas of how you're supporting these business owners through these new ideas, or they're probably not new, they've been out there probably for a little while. It's the first I've heard of it through you, but I think what a fantastic way to really set somebody up for success, and then being committed to the success of whatever it is your business is that you're dreaming about. You're being entrepreneurial, you want that to be successful. So the more tools I think you wrap your business around in order to have a healthy foundation right from the get-go, I think that's just going to help business owners that much more to start things out right and connected to people that are focused on their success and how we can help them together achieve their success.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. I think one of the things that we get is why all the bank accounts, there's this stigma. One of the, biggest things that people who have read the book and then they just assume it's read the book and go. And that we get certified in the system because the book is what I'm calling training wheels. It's a perfect starting place for people who don't know where to go, don't know what to do, but want to start. Lots of DIYers, right? Like, I want to do this myself. I want to figure it out. I'm a Google person. But there's the customization, right? No business is the same. No single answer
Right.
is identical the same. And this is a thing that I've been answering questions to and all the things. And so in the bank accounts, one thing is, all these bank accounts, it takes so much time to monitor them. And they don't realize, like, the system is set up when you're allocating, which is what we call our allocation times. Most of those bank accounts have minimal transactions. So, you might set them up as a business savings. You're getting better return. You're not having a bunch of transactions come out. But when you keep them in the checking account, right, like, you're lucky if they're getting interest, and if they do, it's
Right.
negligible at best. But if you can set this money aside that you're going to pay anyway into an account that can bring you more return, and it's one of the blogs I saw the other day was there was a lot of entrepreneurs. Does profit first mean like you're not capable of balancing your stuff? And I think it depends on who you are, and there's a system for everyone and how it works. I'd equate it to weight loss. Like, I think that I am just best off if the food isn't in the house and doesn't leave. Could I ignore it? Sure. Do I all the time? No. And so I do love that the money is being put into different buckets and they have a purpose. And if you need something comes up and you need it, you're really saying, do I need this, or is there another way? And it just
Right.
causes you to really stop and think about the promises you've made to yourself or the goals that you've set up, and then
Sure.
you work to customize it backwards. So having a organization, a banking institute where it makes that process very easy, not really taxing, like I said, where I was having to have multiple bank accounts with these crazy high minimum balances, is amazing. And I think people don't think about that easy either. If they're in a national bank, they just think, oh my gosh, I'm tying up. If you followed the 7 accounts that they recommend, that's $3,500 worth of my money just tied up. That's a lot for a small business.
Sure.
And so, and then realizing when you guys did the transfer, right, like the money leaves very quickly. I was able to get rid of 2 accounts because the whole point is you don't see the money, right? So that happens. So lots of customization. And I appreciate that because there's all sorts of views and takes on everything. But I think being able to use your financial institution to help you with your goals. And I love what you said. I agree with you. I've never heard it put that way. But in the beginning, where you've got small businesses who aren't ready for a bookkeeper, who aren't ready for all that thing, aren't ready for an accounting system, don't understand it. Yes, set it up correctly the first time out, and you got your P&L at the end of the year. Like, that's amazing. And I will be blogging about that. So thanks very much. So those were the bulk of my questions because I really wanted to go that. But do you have anything else, any tips or tricks that you think small business owners coming in, they should be prepared for? Anything else you've seen in the banking industry, resources you'd like for us to share that we could push out where you think, oh, I wish they would have known this ahead of time or?
Right. I think the biggest thing I run into a lot with entrepreneurs and people that start out as sole proprietors, it's them not being aware of the resources that are out there to them that are for free, that they can get access to very experienced consultants. And I do highly always recommend the Small Business Development Center. It's an untapped resource that businesses end up thinking they're alone on this island when they're getting started. And if you're getting advice from the right people, and that organization is connected to so many other professionals out there, whether it be, like I was saying, accounting, marketing, bookkeeping, CPAs, so many other specific, even industry related experts out there, that organization can be a huge amount of resources right at one location. So I really encourage people to get connected to that organization so that they can start out right from the get-go to understand so many other resources that are available them for getting started, grant programs that are becoming available, or even through the pandemic, resources that are available to businesses to help them get through this time as well. So the more that business owners connect themselves and understand what's available in their immediate community to assist business owners, the better off they're going to be. They aren't alone out there. And the more you ask questions and not be afraid to ask questions because they think, oh, I'm just so small, I'm just getting started. Be a sponge. I just really encourage people to understand their resources, talk with their city officials, county officials, work at even contacting with their economic development centers that are out there. These organizations are all there for the benefit of the community they're in, because one thing to keep in mind is when these businesses get going and they get off the ground, they're creating jobs as well. So it is, in the end of the day, not about just your dream, but job creation at the end of the day. So when you connect yourselves that way, the hope is that your organization or whatever your dream is to develop, it becomes successful and starts contributing to the community that you're doing business in. So you have a lot of people rooting for you to be successful in business, and the more you connect yourself to those resources, I think the higher opportunity is that your business is going to succeed. What we say, in the first couple of years, it's so tough that businesses continue and are viable after that time, and don't let their dream die because it becomes too difficult.
Yes,
So
I
reach out,
agree.
ask for help.
Yep, I think the SBAs, I agree with you, the SBDC, all of those are untapped resources. Also, which we put in the chat there for you, Small Business Development Center. Valley Strong also has some educational stuff, so that is great. That's on our website, and we'll be sharing that too. So if they've got some educational videos, they constantly have webinars and workshops that you can attend for free. There was one about buying a vehicle just a couple of weeks ago, I think. And so all sorts of fun stuff. So I love that your organization is easy to work with. Your staff is amazing and friendly, and you are doing your best to serve your community, whether you're a customer or not. So very much appreciated. I love that.
Yeah.
So that is the extent of my questions that I have. And so if anybody is interested, Valley Strong, what region do you serve? Just so if anybody's tuning in and they're thinking, oh, I'd love to have an account at Valley Strong, there is a geographic area that they need to live in. Is that correct? And what is that?
Sure. Right now, we actually, this past year, we expanded from a federally chartered organization to a state chartered organization, and recently expanded north. So Kern County, Visalia, Tulare, and we are actively pursuing advancing outside of those particular counties as well, a little bit further north and over to the coast. So that is our plan, is to seek that out and to be able to serve many more communities that have been asking us to serve them. So give us a call, let us know what area you're in here in the state of California, and we'll likely be able to assist even through a financial fitness program that we have available, that you can become a member if you're outside of one of our counties. We can help you through become a member through our financial fitness program. So if you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to reach back out to the credit union and we can share more with you about that depending upon where you're located.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I
You're
know that
welcome.
you are a busy woman, and so I appreciate you putting this 35 minutes aside for me. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your week. And hopefully, when this gets shared and other people, you'll be hearing from some of my people about what Valley Strong can do for them.
Sure. Thank you, Christina. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a great rest of your week.
You too.
Okay.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.
Okay, everyone. So that wraps up today's live, all things banking. I hope that this brought you a little bit more clarity. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a blog on banking and Profit First, and some of the pushback that we have about all of the accounts. Can you customize and modify it to yourself? Absolutely, of course you can. But you also want to make sure that we're taking the foundational process, the idea behind Profit First, because it is studied and it is a proven system. But as all things, nothing is a one size fit all. Sometimes you need to make some tailors and some tweaks, right? So my goal is to help you. If you have any questions on the bank accounts and maybe where you're at, drop them below. If you are not in my Permanently Profitable group on Facebook, please consider joining. I have a business page that is Springstead Solutions, and I just recently launched YouTube. And so you can search for Springstead Solutions or Christina Springstead there. So I loved hanging out with you today. Please share this video if you would like. Please invite people to the group. If you have anything specific that you would like covered in future lives, please drop it down below. We're in tax time, brand new year. As I had mentioned before, I am getting ready to launch Permanently Profitable, a digital course on taking Profit First, the book, and customizing it a bit more to you. So if you've read the book, you're like, this is amazing, and I want to implement this, but you want a little bit more direction. You're not ready for a one-on-one coach. That is something that you can consider. You can sign up for the course right now. It's open, or you can sign up for my newsletter and you'll get some additional info when we get closer to launching. That's going to launch February 16th. And so we're going to give more promotion on that and give a little bit more idea of what's happening in that over the next couple weeks. So I encourage you all to have a wonderful week, and we will see you back here next week at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I do have another question for those of you. I found this time might be a little bit challenging. So if you would, or if you're listening to this after the fact and you think, I'm on the Pacific Coast Standard Time, if you're thinking, oh, 11's tough, maybe it's lunch hours and stuff like that. If you think there's another time of day where you would be able to tune in live and you are wanting to, please drop that in the comments below. This was kind of picked just based off a schedule, but if there's another day or time that would work better, I would like to know that. So I wish you all a wonderful day. Hopefully you are all getting ready to prep for your taxes. And if it's time for you to set up some bank accounts, ask your bank, your financial institution what they've got, find out what the best deal is, and let's get 2021 rolling for the best financial success. Have a good day, y'all.